Hi everybody, this is Maureen Wong for YourNextSnap.com. We've had some requests about questions, I guess, about the stitching holes dies, and so I wanted to revisit them. I've done videos in the past using them a couple times, but I didn't really do a video just on highlighting the dies themselves. So let me go through this. It comes in a set of 6, and you can see I have them out of order, but I die cut them in order. You can see the shortest one is there, and then the longest one actually fits all the way across of a 5.5 inch card, so you can put it across the down the long side of an A2 card and it'll fit perfectly. I've shown a couple different stitching methods, and if you saw the video on the piercing circles die, I showed you a couple different things that you could do with the holes of the stitching. So today I want to take it into a little bit more advanced and show you a couple other things that you can do with the stitching holes dies. The first thing I'm going to show is how you can get the circles perfectly all around a square. Now what I've done is I've picked one die, and then I've cut a square of cardstock that is just slightly bigger than that die, and I've gone ahead and run it through my die cut machine once. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna run it through again, and what you want to do is you want to line up that corner hole with the first hole in the die. I'm sorry, my finger is over that. Just by moving it around and kind of pushing the paper up, you'll be able to feel when the die goes into that hole. And then what you're gonna do is make sure it's in there, and yes, it is in there. And then I'm going to line it up straight on my piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to tape it down with a piece of tape. And then let me run that through my die cut machine. And I have my Evolution Advanced here. Doesn't matter which die cut machine you use. And I'm just going to run this through real quick. And then when I remove the tape, you can see, carefully remove the tape, you can see that I've got another line of holes, and the first hole, or the last hole in the first run through, becomes the first hole in this second run through. And then you just go ahead and do that again. You make sure that the first hole is in that last hole. Hope that makes sense. And then stick it down and run it through your die cut machine. Sorry, this has suction cups, but I'm not using them today. I have them on my Ranger craft mat, so it's gonna slide around no matter what. So that's why it's a little bit slidey in the camera shot. Okay, and then when you take that off, carefully, again, you can see, oops, one of them stayed in there, that I've almost got my full square done. And then this time what you're gonna do is line up in the first hole and that other side. There's that hole, the very first hole, and you're gonna make sure those are both lined up, and then stick your tape down and run it through your die cut machine. And once you remove the tape, you'll see that you have a square with those holes. Now that seems like a lot of trouble, so if you don't want to do that, that's fine. but it just gives you more options for playing with the plain stitching holes die. We don't have a square set right now, and so this is a way that you can make your own squares. And what you can do is just leave that as a decorative, the circles like a decorative edge, or you can actually stitch through them like I've shown on my other videos. Another thing I wanted to show you is you can actually do, if you do embroidery or cross stitching, you can actually do 2 rows of holes and do a little bit of cross stitching or decorative embroidery kind of stitches through that. The thing is, you're wondering, well, how do I do that since none of the dies are actually the same length? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to use the technique of partial die cutting. And let me show you how we're going to do that with these. Well, let's just take 2 of the longer ones. And what you're going to do is you're going to put them however far apart you want. And let me take away my cutting machine, die cutting machine, so you can see it a little better. I'm going to leave my cutting mats over here so you can see that. So what you're going to do is line up your dies so the ends are even. You can see that. And then put them as far apart as you want them to cut. And what you're going to do is figure out how many holes do I want it to cut. And what you can do is just get a wet erase marker or a dry erase marker, and you can say, okay, I think I want 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I'm going to draw a line after that. And because it's lined up with the other die, I know that the 10 is going to be here as well. So what you're going to do is then you're going to take a little skinny piece of painter's tape and make sure that's lined up exactly how you want it to cut, and then you're going to carefully lay your painter's tape over those dies. And then what you're going to do is get your cardstock. You're going to get your die cutting machine. Let me zoom out. You're going to get your die cutting machine, and let's say you wanted the holes to go there. Or let me get another piece of cardstock here. So I want the holes to go there. And what you're going to do is you only want to cut these 10. So that's where the lines come in. You are going to do a partial die cutting up to that line. So when you put your top cover on, there you can see the lines, you're going to put it before the lines. You don't want to cut anywhere after the lines. So you line up the edge of your top cutting plate with those marks, and then when you run it through the die cut machine, it'll only cut up to that point. So it'll cut 10 holes on each row, and then you can do your stitching. And that's exactly how I did this. I marked off however many holes I wanted, and you can plan that ahead, and then just use any of the dies you want. It doesn't matter as long as it's not too short, and you can run those through, and I got 2 of the same. Of course, another way you can do it is to just take the one die and position it, run it through, position it again, and run it through. But this is sort of a faster and easier way to make sure that they line up really nicely. So I hope these tips have helped you learn a little bit more about your Stitching Holes die set, and we hope to see you over at yournextstamp.com. Thank you very much for watching.